In a quiet village nestled deep within the green hills of Tripura, where the dense forest met the edge of the fields, lived a man named Kachak Roy. He was a Jumia by tradition, a shifting cultivator like many of his ancestors. The village was small, with only a few scattered huts, but it was peaceful, surrounded by thick forests teeming with life. The towering trees seemed to guard the village, their leaves whispering in the wind as if telling ancient tales long forgotten. Kachak lived with his wife, Sampari, in a modest bamboo hut near the edge of the forest. Sampari was well known in the village for her beauty, grace, and hard work. From dawn till dusk, she worked in the fields, cutting down the dense undergrowth and preparing the land for June cultivation, a back-breaking task that took most of the year. Even after a long day of labor, Sampari would return home to cook, clean, and tend to the household chores. She never complained, not once, for she had a heart full of love for her husband. Kachak, however, was a stark contrast to his industrious wife. While Sampari worked in the fields and managed their home, Kachak spent most of his days lounging in the shade, drinking the local brew, and playing his flute. He was known in the village for his laziness and short temper, often scolding Sampari over trivial matters, despite all the hard work she did. But Sampari never let his anger affect her. She loved him deeply, despite his flaws, and bore the brunt of his temper with quiet grace. For many years, the couple lived without children. Sampari longed for a child and often prayed to the gods, asking for a blessing to fill the emptiness in her heart. She would sit by the river, her hands folded in prayer, whispering to the sky and to the spirits of the forest. Finally, after many years, her prayers were answered. Sampari gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, a child as fair as the moon and as radiant as the morning sun. They named him Lankarai, and with his birth, Sampari's life was filled with even more love. But the arrival of their son also brought new challenges. Sampari, who had always managed both the household and the fields, now found herself struggling to balance the care of her child with the demands of the Jum fields. The land needed constant attention, and the season for cultivation was fast approaching. Sampari knew that she needed help, and for the first time, she turned to Kachak. One morning, as the mist still clung to the trees and the sun was just beginning to rise, Sampari prepared to leave for the fields. She wrapped Lankarai in a soft cloth and gently placed him in his cradle. Before she left, she turned to Kachak, who was sitting outside their hut, idly plucking at his flute. "Kachak," she said softly, "I need your help today. The Jum fields are waiting, and I must tend to them. Please, watch over Lankarai while I'm gone. He is still so small, and I worry for him." Kachak, though reluctant, nodded in agreement. Sampari's eyes lingered on her husband for a moment, and then she kissed her baby boy on the forehead and stepped out of the house. As she walked along the forest path toward the fields, her heart felt heavy with unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Suddenly, a black cat darted across her path, its dark figure vanishing into the underbrush. Sampari stopped in her tracks. The villagers believed that a black cat crossing your path was a bad omen, a sign of impending misfortune. Her pulse quickened, and a deep sense of dread settled over her. She whispered a quick prayer and hurried on her way, her mind filled with worry. Before she disappeared into the trees, she turned back toward the hut and called out to Kachak once more. "Please, Kachak, be careful with the baby. I feel something is not right today." But as soon as Sampari was out of sight, Kachak returned to his usual habits. Instead of watching over his son, he picked up his flute and began to play. The soft, lilting notes filled the air, carrying through the forest and over the fields. Kachak became lost in the music, his mind drifting far from the responsibilities of fatherhood. He played for hours, the beautiful melody wrapping him in its spell. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a large bear was lurking, hidden among the thick bushes and trees. The bear, drawn by the sound of Kachak's flute, slowly approached the village. Its keen eyes soon spotted the baby lying alone in the cradle, his tiny arms waving in the air as he cooed softly. The bear, hungry and curious, crept silently toward the hut. Without a sound, it reached into the house, lifted the baby from his cradle, and carried him away into the shadows of the forest. Kachak, engrossed in his music, didn't notice anything. He played and played, completely unaware of the danger that had befallen his family. As the sun began to set and the sky turned a deep shade of crimson, Sampari returned home, her body tired from a long day of work. Her hands were calloused and stained with soil, but her heart was light, eager to see her baby boy. She hurried into the house, expecting to find Lankarai in his cradle. But when she looked, the cradle was empty. Her heart stopped. Panic surged through her as she frantically searched the house, calling out for her son. "Lankarai! Lankarai!" she cried, her voice trembling with fear. She turned to Kachak, her eyes wide with terror. "Where is our son?" Kachak, confused and startled, looked around helplessly. He had no answer. He hadn't even noticed that the baby was gone. Sampari's heart shattered. Her son, her precious Lankarai, was gone, and her husband had failed to protect him. Overwhelmed by grief and rage, she turned on Kachak, her voice trembling with fury. "You careless, selfish man!" she screamed. "You have failed me. You have failed our son. You sat here playing your flute while our child was taken. I curse you, Kachak. In your next life you will not be a man but a bird. A wretched bird with a long, awkward beak like your flute. Your voice will be coarse and harsh, and you will toil endlessly. You will be forced to work all day, gathering food for your mate, while she sits on her eggs, unable to move. You will know the burden of labor, and there will be no one to help you, just as you failed to help me today." With those final words, Sampari turned and fled into the forest, her cries echoing through the trees. She was never seen again. Kachak, left alone in his sorrow, was consumed by regret. He searched for Sampari, calling her name, but she was gone, vanished into the depths of the forest. The village fell into mourning, and Kachak's once cheerful flute music was replaced by silence. As the years passed, the villagers told the story of Kachak and Sampari, and soon, it became legend. They said that Kachak was reborn as the male Hornbill, just as Sampari had cursed. His once beautiful flute had become his long, curved beak, and his voice, once soft and melodic, had turned rough and croaking. He now spent his days tirelessly gathering food for his mate, who sat in her nest, watching over her eggs until they hatched. Kachak, now the Hornbill, was forced to work endlessly, paying for his negligence with each passing day.